Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope wherever you are that you're happy, healthy, and staying safe. Today, I'm talking about the Hoka Tecton X3. Now, I skipped the second version of the shoe. Put a lot of miles in the original Tecton X. Pretty much ran them into the ground along with the Hoka Speedgoat 5. Not the 6, but the 5. Those were my two favorite go-to trail shoes for some time. And I put hundreds of miles in them. But it was time to upgrade, to get a new pair. And you know, Hoka did a really nice job with the changes and the updates that they made, which are significant to the Tecton X series of shoes. And the Tecton X3 has not disappointed me, not at all. They're really soft, super comfortable on foot. They feel lightweight. Now, I'm excited to see when I get home and I put these on my scales what they come in at, but they felt really light when I was lacing them up today. So I love that feeling. Absolutely love it. These are a little different in that they have a built-in gaiter. I'm not so sure that the built-in gaiter is something that I necessarily needed, but if you run in areas where you normally do have to wear a gaiter, then you don't got to worry about purchasing one separate. That you got one built in. It is comfortable. It's soft, really soft material to the touch, and a little bit stretchy. But we'll see. We'll see how much that grows on me in the future. I just don't think that it's necessary for the kinds of trails that I typically run and hike and walk on. So I am back home and I had a lot of fun out at my local state park hiking around the trails in the Hoka Tecton X3s. So let's take a look at these in a little bit more detail, starting with the price tag. They're not cheap. They're the most expensive pair of trail shoes I've ever purchased. They retail for $275 US, and that's a lot of money. And I haven't seen them on sale, even though these shoes have been out now for a few months. I've yet to see them go on sale. Maybe when they come out with the Tecton X4, they might see a price drop, but right now, $275 is what it's going to cost if you want to put a pair of these on your feet anytime soon. The weight of these, as I showed a little bit earlier on my scales, comes in a little less than the stated weight on Hoka's website. On my scales, they came in at roughly 9.5 ounces or 269 grams, but Hoka has them listed at 10 ounces. Lighter's always better. Just picking them up, though, they do feel pretty lightweight just to have in hand. That's one of the things I noticed right away. For a trail shoe, they do feel pretty light, just pretty light in your hands. Now, I ordered mine true to size, and they do fit me perfectly well. And for me, that's a US men's size 9, so that's what I have here in my hands. Now, we're going to talk about the upper and then the midsole and the outsole and all that kind of good stuff. Beginning with the upper. Now, they're using what they call a matrix upper material, which does not absorb water. And that is a fantastic thing to have in a trail shoe. And it doesn't necessarily mean, running through standing water somewhere. But for me, a lot of times when I'm out on the trails, it's early in the morning and there's a lot of dew that's on the ground. And with other trail shoes that I own, my feet can get pretty wet right off the bat because you're running through all that dew and moisture that's on the plants. And having a shoe that resist absorbing the water can keep my feet a little bit more dry, especially early on, because there's nothing worse than having wet feet when you first start out on a run, because then you're doomed to having wet feet and possibly getting blisters and other types of issues that come up as a result of that for the next hour or 2 hours or however long you plan to be out there. So I really like that matrix upper material. It's surprisingly pretty flexible. It's not as stiff as I thought that it might be for a water resistant type of material, and it is somewhat breathable. When I hold it up to the light, you can see through the panels, but you're not seeing a ton of daylight. But I can see daylight as I look through the panel material. And as long as I guess they're showing the toe off here, they call this a dynamic vamp, that little panel section that's up here in the toe of the shoe. And so it gives a little bit more flexibility to adapt to your feet, allow you to display your toes comfortably. And if your feet swell a little bit, that's going to have a little extra forgiveness there as well. So you're not going to feel like your feet are all cramped up there in the toe box. As we look around that matrix upper, you can see they do have their Hoka logo printed across the side of the shoe as a plastic overlay, and kind of the same on the other side. Oh, they spell Hoka out on one side, and of course the matrix, and then their little logo on this side of the shoe. Looking at the lace enclosure system. Now this is not unusual, I guess. It's not a traditional lace enclosure system. They have these like loops that they've got there that you're running your laces through. It did a good job in terms of being able to cinch these down on my feet so they felt comfortable. I felt secure and locked in. The one thing that I'll note is that for me, I do get a lot of extra bunching in this type of a lace enclosure system that has a booty instead of a traditional tongue, because there's nowhere for that material to go. So when you start to cinch this together, that booty material folds over in on itself. I didn't notice that cutting across the top of my foot at all, so it didn't cause any kind of discomfort when I was hiking around in these shoes, but it is definitely noticeable for me, especially for someone like myself, who I don't particularly have a wide foot. And so that often is a problem for me, especially with a booty style construction like they have here. But otherwise, you're running your laces through these loops, system up through the lace enclosure system there, or the chain. And one thing I will note is because it doesn't have a traditional tongue, they don't have any extra padding up here. And what that means for me is that's one of the things I noticed the very first time that I laced these up and tied them off, is I could feel the laces cutting across the top of my midfoot there. I think it would be nice in the future if they're going to stick with something like this, that maybe they do something about that and put a little bit of padding or something across where those laces are going to come, because I found myself not wanting to cinch them down maybe as much as I normally do, because they were feeling just a little bit uncomfortable. They were just kind of biting into the top of my foot. So, if you've had that kind of issue with these shoes on your feet, let us know in the comment section below. I'd be curious if it's just me, which it could be, or if others are having that same type of an issue. All right, so we'll work our way around back to the heel counter, and then I want to talk a little bit more about this booty / gaiter that they have here. If I put this up on my shoulder and kind of give this the pinch test, there's really no additional material back here in the heel counter. You can see that it doesn't take much, if anything, to be able to squeeze that together. So you're not getting much stability there, but they did add a stability feature back in this region of the shoe here, and we'll talk about that too in a second. So let's talk about that booty, built-in booty / gaiter that they have. I'm not completely sold on it. Now, for where I run, it's maybe not 100% necessary. It's a nice feature to keep the rocks and debris out of my shoes, because that does happen from time to time, not all the time, but it does definitely happen. It probably has happened to you too. If you're out running any kind of gravel roads, fire trails, anything like that, at some point in time, you've likely got some stones that's in there, and you've had to stop and, reach around the collar and dig them out, that kind of thing, or even take your shoes off to empty them out to get those stones and rocks out of there. So you won't have to worry about that with that. The downside is, it wasn't that warm when I was out hiking. It's like 65 degrees, but my feet got hot. They, up around this area, so they got really warm pretty quickly. So that is the downside to these, is that you're going to maybe wear a lighter pair of socks than what I had on. You might even be able to get away with wearing a pair of no-show socks, so you didn't have that double material that's coming up there. But something to note, that these do run a little bit warm around your ankle. All right, so let's take a look at the midsole. So it's a PEBA-based midsole. They have midsole. They have 2 different layers of that midsole foam there. It is pretty soft. I mean, it does feel really comfortable, but these shoes are considered to be a responsive shoe, so not necessarily a max cushion trail shoe. So they do have a bit of a lower profile. Now, I'm not entirely certain what the stack height is here, but they do ride a little lower to the ground, giving you a bit more of that ground contact feel to them. But they are very comfortable. The step and feel of these is pretty amazing. I felt like I just kind of sunk in just a little bit. So very comfortable. I'm a big fan of the changes that they made to that PEBA-based foam. Now they do have a 5mm offset. That's pretty typical for Hoka. Most of their shoes are running in that range, and they do have a bit of a metal rocker there. So if you're using these as a trail race shoe, which is what I intend to use these for, you're going to have that little extra something as you move through your gait to allow you to do that smoothly, a little bit faster transition as you move through, from your, for me anyway, I midfoot strike and through to my toe off. So I do like that feeling. That's another Hoka trait, is the Meta Rocker type of a design, to add a little bit of that roll through technology that they have. Now the plate has changed from the original version of the shoe, where they still have the parallel plates, carbon plates that are in here, but they've added what they call winglets, and you can see it right here. That black is part of the winglet. So it wraps up on both sides of the shoe. So that's where that extra stability is. So you might not be getting it in the heel counter, but you're getting it through the carbon fiber plates that are within the midsole foam itself. And, they're nice. They're really nice, especially for trail shoes. And, it gives you almost that independent suspension, because it's not a single plate that's going to cause you some instability. But because they're separate plates on uneven terrain, it gives you a little extra flexibility, so you don't feel like you're, getting so jarred if you hit a root or something like that. It's going to have a little bit of give to it, so it won't be quite so such a stark hit to the ground if that were to happen to you. And those plates do offer, they're pretty stiff, right? So let me. So these are stiff. I'm pushing on this pretty hard, and it's hard to flex that. So when you're out on the gravel pass, or if you're out on like a fire trail, something like that, and you can really pick up the speed and you're mid to 4 foot striking on the shoe, you're really going to be able to take advantage of that plate. Otherwise, I don't know how much of that you're going to be able to take advantage of. If you're running at slower paces, and so on, I'm not entirely certain how much extra you're going to get from the plate, but definitely it's there if you need it on the less technical terrain that you might be running on, which is what I run on. A lot of it would be the equivalent of a fire trail, because it's got a lot of gravel on it. But even the trails that are a bit, not the fire trail, but a bit more rustic, where people are hiking or biking or riding horses, that kind of thing, they're still pretty well groomed for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of uneven terrain and lots of roots and things that you have to be careful of, and rocks and things. But for the most part, it's pretty well packed down. And there are places that I can definitely pick up the pace there, but definitely shine in the areas where it's going to be, that gravel fire trail type of style. At least in my opinion anyway. All right, so let's flip these over. They got Vibram Megagrip on the bottom of the shoe here, and you can see they have a lot of it. They do have a bit of a section in right underneath your arch that does not have that outsole rubber, and the lugs are 4mm lugs, so they're decent. They're not overly aggressive lugs necessarily, but enough to help you feel safe and secure when you're out running, especially if it's in a little bit of muddy types of terrain. And I did run across that when I was out hiking around, where it gets a little bit greasy, you know what I mean, on the top of the trails. And these did fine in helping to hold me in place. Now these lugs are bigger, just overall width and things, and slightly different design. And you can see that they're more of a diamond, or more of a diamond shaped pattern, whereas in the previous shoe, like this is the original version of Tecton X, these are more of a triangular type of a shape. And of course they've got their signature X that's there on the bottom, which was always kind of neat when you're out running in the snow and things like that. You could see you leaving X's behind, but they, it's not in the third version of the shoe, and that's fine by me. I think that these lugs, the Vibram Megagrip is really one of the premier outsole materials you can use to give you good grip to the ground. So you're not going to have any issues with that at all. I've got lots and lots of experience with Vibram Megagrip on other running shoes, and I've been thoroughly impressed with it. So I don't foresee any kinds of issues with the outsole rubber at all. Okay, so Have I forgotten anything that I wanted to talk about under this kind of this unboxing first impression hike around the state park? I don't think so. I don't think so. They're really comfortable on foot. I didn't have any kind of comfort issues at all right out of the box, just slipping my foot into these. The only thing I would say is, again, the gator gets a little bit warm. They are a little bit expensive, and so they're not going to be for everybody. You know, $275 US for a pair of trail shoes when you can get some really nice trail shoes for, you know, half that amount of money is, you know, it's hard to justify. I bought them because I do want to run some trail races in these a little bit later on down the road because I had such fun and such success in the original version of the shoe. I put lots and lots of miles on these, and I don't foresee having any kind of issues with putting lots and lots of miles in these as well. So I'll be doing a lot of the training that I will start here soon for the Chicago Marathon in the Hoka Tecton X3. I can guarantee that. Much of it will be out at my local state park and places around, which is one of my favorite places to train. I love the terrain that's out there, lots of hills, just lots of challenging environments. I love the fact that it's you know, a lot of variety, and it's also a little bit easier on my body to run the trails than it is out on the roads all of the time. So you'll be seeing these on my feet a lot in future videos. All right, you guys. Hey, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, kind of one another. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Run Tall with Tim.